Believe it or not, horror movies are a dime a dozen thanks to the oversaturated market we currently live in. We used to have just horror movies that were in theaters and then straight to TV movies, mostly on the Sci-Fi Channel. But nowadays we have theaters, maybe straight to TV movies still, if that is a thing anymore for horror. I know that's what's keeping the Hallmark Channel alive.
Oh, Santa won't be knocking on my door, 'cause she's a big fat whore.
But we now have at least 10 streaming services, and they all have their own horror originals, so there's a lot of sludge to sift through. To find some of the good stuff. But today we are just talking about the brown bubbling piss that some writers and directors try to pass off as artistic or entertainment endeavors. And I will be saying why these movies blow load, so I will be spoiling every single one of them, and as my friends over at Unleash the Ghouls would say, you have been warned. Let's get spooky, I guess. Cobweb.
Mom?
Cobweb is a kind of Halloween movie about a young kid with the shittiest parents ever, and he starts hearing voices in the wall that tell the audience more than the kid himself that his shit parents are shit. The reason the movie sucks is that it's so poorly written. The whole time the parents had this monster child hidden in a secret room in their bedroom. Their child says he hears voices in the wall, and the parents' first thought is, it's his imagination. Second thought, rats. Never thought that their monster child escaped and is trying to talk to their son. Also, if she escaped, she would have to either dig a hole in the wall, or there would be some kind of sign that she had escaped, and then she would come back. I mean, they gotta check on her daily for food. Wouldn't they notice something? We have to use our imagination because we have no idea what her situation is like in her little hidden room. But we do know that the parents never trimmed this poor monster girl's hair in over a decade, so there is a ton of cobwebs in her hair that's like 15 feet long. That's not an exaggeration, by the way. So that's why the movie is called Cobweb, and that is a shit idea for a movie title. We never get an impression that the parents actually love their monster girl. She's just a dark secret that they will go to extreme lengths to keep secret, but we never get a single scene where they express parental love, so it begs the question, shouldn't they have just killed her? I know it's not an easy or a normal thing for a parent to kill their child, but they keep her constantly locked away in pits, walls, and they never bathe or really take care of her. I never got the impression that they actually loved their monster daughter. The movie even plays off that this might be in the kid's head the whole time, but the last 20 minutes of the movie, spoiler alert, nope, there really is a girl on the wall, and her face looks like the lazy-ass Grim-Cuddy face. Also, the movie ends terribly. The girl kills about 6 people, the son poisoned his parents, his hot teacher called Miss Divine, nice porn name for a teacher, by the way, helps shatter the girl's ribs and trap her in a hole in their basement. And the girl gives this ominous threat that she'll be in the shadows looking for her brother, instead of, the logical ending where the kid and the teacher call the cops, the monster girl gets locked away or burned at the stake, and the boy spends half of his life in juvie for poisoning his parents to death. The only redeeming quality of the film is the last 15 minutes where the monster girl is crawling all over the walls and kills the bullies that come to the house to mess up our main guy, which I'm sure is going to be a clip on YouTube if it's not already. I haven't looked and I don't really care, but if you want to watch the only good part of this movie, just look up Cobweb, kill scene, or end scene, or something like that. Children of the Corn. Children of the Corn is a remake of the 80s Children of the Corn, which is based off of one of Stephen King's short stories, and I already reviewed this one, but in case y'all didn't see it, this movie is dog shit. I'm willing to put serious money on the line that this movie is so bad that it's on most people's worst horror movies of the year lists. The villain is the worst kind of terrible, someone who we are told is a leader and an influencer of mass proportions, like able to convince children to bury their own parents alive kind of levels of influence. And we see none of it. There is not a single scene or a speech in this flick that convinces us, the audience, why anyone would be following this girl. Turns out she actually is the spokesman of the monster in the corn, which is just a giant humanoid thing of cornstalk. You'd think it'd be really easy to write in that this mythological monster can give powers to this 8-year-old so she could have some kind of edge. Nope. Nothing. And the hero is just as bad. The whole town is so broke that the parents plan to sell the land to the government as a last-ditch effort. The hero proposes a different idea, and calling it an idea is being pretty generous. Cause we get dick when it comes to the detail of how her plan would actually work. There is one redeeming quality of the movie, and it's the ending where the 8-year-old villain turns out to have survived the burning of the corn and is a zombie cornstalk monster that attacks the hero and cuts to the credits. It's almost like someone thought of that 5-second scene and was like, hey, how about we build an entire movie around that? And a bunch of lazy assholes were like, derp, derp, sure. Fuck, this movie was bad. Malum. Malum is a psychological thriller about a cop working the graveyard shift at an old police station by herself. Sounds like a good idea. Yeah, and it was executed pretty well in the last shift. But the guy who made that got a bit more money and made essentially the same movie again, only shittier. Here's how. This movie is definitely psychological because there are plenty of scenes that are dreams, visions, hallucinations, and the whatnot. Problem is that it does it so much that it never grounds us in what is actually real. By the end of the movie, I had no idea what actually did happen and what didn't. The practical effects are pretty There are about 4 different kinds of bad guys in the film, and the ones that I liked the most had bags over their head, so that alone says quite a bit about the other 3. Also, I remember specifically a jump scare that's in the trailer where she opens a door to a room and like 4 people drop from the ceiling hung by nooses, and either the timing with the sound was off or the sound wasn't loud enough, but it was definitely a jump scare that was just poorly done. And jump scares are typically the cheap move in horror, and if you can't even get that right, maybe go back to the basics before you put a whole movie together. The movie starts out okay with the police shooting within the police station, and I did like how the main cop had to prove herself in the beginning because she was a rookie, and whenever she called in for help, everyone gave her shit about it, but after that, this movie really has nothing going for it. I also did a longer review on this. I don't remember how many details I actually threw into, but if you want to check that out, that's also on my channel. Enas Men.
Hello? Hello?
Enas Men is a movie, I guess. This one is tough. It's about one person on an island studying a flower. That's it. What's the significance of the flower? Fuck if I know. Which is a really bad start. It's the entire setting to the movie, and we are told absolutely nothing to help us out with the importance. Yeah, it's the main character's job, but that's it? You can't give us more than that? Is this flower gonna cure cancer? Is this flower, if eaten, gonna allow me to see light years away? Can I use it in a summoning ritual so Cthulhu can cleanse this earth of the non-believers? Why is she there? Anyways, I also don't know this chick's name. She has very brief communication with someone that sends her supplies that she bones once. She finds some random shit on the island. There are people sometimes on it and sometimes not. She has a daughter, but when we find out that it's a young version of her, so not only does she see things, but there's also a time loop which makes everything super easy to follow. This is such a nothing burger of a movie. I know practically nothing about the main character, the island, the flower. There's an obelisk that's there. It's just too vague, too quiet, too little dialogue, and nothing personal against the actress, but I would bet that this is her first role, cause any other actor with a little experience would have read the script and have been like, so what's the story here? Of course, the exception would be the super A-list actors.
That'll be script reads me.
What the hell does that even mean?
I'm a little pissed that I saw this one in theaters. This is such an art house kind of flick that it should have been in select film festivals at best. The Meg 2. The Meg 2 is obviously a sequel to 2018's The Meg. It's a giant shark movie. Only The Meg 2 only had a few characters return while at the same time adding in completely new and unnecessary characters. The purpose of these movies is supposed to be just dumb fun. This movie is definitely dumb, but it's not really fun. Jason Statham does a lot of badass stuff that he should not be able to do, like take on 6 guys at the same time without taking a single hit, even though it was never established in the first movie that he has any combat experience. There are at least 3 Megs in this movie, 1 giant octopus that we barely see any of, and way too many scenes of these CGI lizards that are basically big iguanas but are apparently as lethal as velociraptors. I am not kidding. Towards the end of this movie, when this becomes a land movie instead of a sea movie, there are a group of about 25 hired mercenaries for the main bad guy that was so obvious and so forgettable I forgot who it even was. Anyways, the group is attacked by these monsters, and even though these are trained guys, probably with military backgrounds, they can't manage to kill a single one, which is astounding. These things are smaller than Komodo dragons. We actually had a killer Komodo dragon movie, and if memory serves, that movie actually wasn't half bad, but I'm pretty sure those were like genetically huge Komodo dragons, making them way more lethal. These things, I don't even know what the fuck these things are. There are plenty of other problems with this flick, minor weird shit like a guy having in his emergency bag a Desert Eagle, basically a hand cannon for those who aren't gun savvy, and it's got poison-tipped bullets. Fucking why? And the biggest problem is that there may be more sharks in this movie than the first one, but we weirdly see less of them. I get that it's probably expensive having giant monster sharks on the screen all the time, but you could easily make the movie just suspenseful and feel like underwater bases are constantly getting attacked, but this is supposed to be a dumb fun movie, so I guess that idea is out of the question. But the cherry on top of this shit sandwich is that at the end, there's a dumb rap song playing during the credits talking about Megs. Is Will Smith back into doing terrible rap songs? I don't know exactly what the secret is to doing a fun bad movie, but clearly the people who made this movie didn't either. Sloth House.
We're all gonna die slow, horrible deaths at the hands of an adorable little killing machine.
Sloth House is as dumb as they come. It's a killer sloth movie. Now, you might be asking, how could they turn this into a creature feature? They just turn the sloth into Jason Voorhees and make it ridiculously tech savvy. The movie has some pretty fun parts, but this is on the shit list, so I'll just emphasize why it made it here instead of any of my other lists. First of all, the first 45 minutes of the movie are the biggest drag. It is so boring. Not much happens, but when the sloth starts killing, things do pick up the pace and it gets pretty fun. But one of the worst aspects of the movie is this character, Zenny.
My last Optimus Prime, you are bold, ma'am!
She is the worst character of the movie. She is essentially a caricature of a kind of lesbian tomboy gangster, and every single line of dialogue from her just seems so forced. It's an earsore. A wild decision by the people who made this flick is that they made the movie PG-13, so all the over-the-top blood, gore, and practical effects you'd normally get in a dumb monster movie are just not present in this flick. The last half is fun, but I definitely couldn't put this on my best of the year list, and nor could I really put it on my underrated or overrated list. So here it shall stay. One of the worst horror movies of the year. If you feel you must watch it, just play on your phone for the first half, then give the movie the time of day. I also did another review on this. I don't know how much more detail you want into me shitting on it, but it's on my channel. You can go watch it if you like. Pet Cemetery Bloodlines. Pet Cemetery Bloodlines is a kind of prequel to the Pet Cemetery franchise, which is the most famous for having a movie title that's impossible to remember how to spell. Cemetery, Symmetry? I don't fucking know. But what I do know is that this movie sucks. Here's why. The whole premise behind Pet Cemetery is basically, it's just a zombie story. There is a little more to it than that, but at its core, it is a zombie story. And these zombies suck. These actors suck. The movie's existence is what sucks because it's a prequel that offers nothing new about the Pet Cemetery. We always knew it was an Indian burial ground. We get one scene where it's a flashback, but it offers absolutely nothing new. I guess we now know for sure that the purpose of the grounds was evil, but that's really it. And you could have really done something with that. Oh, you know what they could have done? Shot the whole movie during the first settlement of America. Lots of natives get killed, so they create the grounds to bring all of their dead back to attack their enemies, but then the dead turn on them, so they have to abandon the grounds.
But no!
We got this shit instead. A kid going off to join the Peace Corps because his parents couldn't stop making it so he would never get drafted. And then another family has their son die overseas, but they keep it under wraps and bring him back until it obviously gets out of hand. There is this other aspect where all of the elders of the town, i.e., the mayor, 2 random dads, the sheriff, and a mail lady. Fuck knows why half of these people are in on the loop, but they all know about the pet cemetery. And instead of like covering the entire spot in cement or tar, it's just there. Anyone with knowledge about it can use it, and of course they do. There's also this new rule that you have to shoot the dead in the eyes to kill them, but they never explain why. The zombies just have some gray skin, and that's why they suck. There's nothing cool about them, unlike the look of the wife at the end of the first movie.
Darling.
That was such a sweet ending to that movie. The only redeemable aspect of this flick is that there is this scene of our main guy walking in a little pond looking for the dead guy, and we get a camera shot of the dead guy waiting underwater for his moment. And that's it. Then they give us a ridiculous feeling of suspense when the main guy's girlfriend is almost drowning in a hole. It's plot armor that she's actually there instead of being instantly killed by the zombie, but on top of that, we get a sense that she may drown and her boyfriend will never find her until she just saves herself right after the main guy kills the last bad guy.
What was the point of all that?
Yeah, fuck this movie. The Nun 2.
There's something wrong with the school. Something doesn't feel right.
The Nun 2 is the sequel to The Nun, which is a spin-off of The Conjuring 2 that no one fucking asked for. Well, I guess that's not exactly true, because the movie was made and made enough money to warrant a sequel, so what the hell do I know? Well, I know what The Nun 2 is about and why it's shit. The Conjuring franchise has essentially become Marvel. So many sequels, so many spin-offs. The Nun 2 has our main good nun from the first movie chasing down signs of the evil nun that apparently survived from the first one, which came to no one's surprise because we saw that Frenchie, the commoner from the first one, was possessed at the end of The Nun, and we know that even though he is possessed in The Nun 2, nothing bad is going to happen to him because he has to survive till the flashback scene in The Conjuring where Lorraine tries to help him out. So we know our main victim is going to be fine at the end of this movie right from the get-go.
Whippy!
On top of that, the movie gives us this false sense of threat level by killing off a few randos at the beginning, but does absolutely nothing to any character that actually matters. I did a longer review on this one, and you can check that out on my channel as well, but those are probably my biggest gripes with the whole flick. Wow, we're almost done here, and already the list is filled of unnecessary sequels and remakes and prequels that no one really asked for. Coincidence?
Do you think so?
Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is an obvious cash grab at a dumb concept. So it's right up the alley for horror heads that like blood and violence for blood and violence sake. Problem is that this movie is too cheap to really deliver on that to make it worth it. Remember the mean one? I do. It's one of my best performing vids. Few thousand. Small flex for a channel of 400 subs, but in that movie they did CGI blood. They also do that here. There are some practical effects, but a majority of the kills are pretty meh. We do get a nice sledgehammer to the face, but that's definitely it. You'd think this movie would focus more on Christopher Robin, or at least he'd be the main character. Nope, just a random group of bitches as cannon fodder. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mind a higher kill count, but I know so little about them that making them the main characters seems like a big mistake. The movie starts off with some exposition talking about how the animals in the 100-acre woods are half-breeds. I'm sorry, is this movie casually saying that someone fucked a bear, a pig, a donkey, a rabbit, and a kangaroo? After Christopher Robin, quote, abandons them, they had to fend for themselves, and they end up eating Eeyore. Hold up a fucking second. These wild animals couldn't feed themselves? They relied on a small child that much to bring them food? There is no way that makes any sense. Did this kid spend every few days for over a decade in the woods bringing food to these things? First of all, I'm sure his parents would beat the shit out of him for giving away all their food. Second of all, there is no way he could visit them that often throughout all seasons of the year. You know most living things eat daily, right? Like, you go a day without food, you notice it. So as these animals were waiting for him to bring back some honey and apples, did they just sit on their asses and do nothing? They also swear off their human nature and vow to never speak again, but they still wear clothes, build forts, use weapons, have complex gas-powered machines in their slaughterhouses. They are stupidly selective with their abandoning their human nature side idea. And the thing that bugged me the whole time, they never ate their victims.
What? Oh, come on!
Seriously? I thought that was the whole point of them going insane, is because they were literally starving and ended up eating one of their own. And in this movie, they kill like 12 people and eat none of them. I know we see a skinned corpse when the gang finds a tortured Christopher Robin, but that's the only one. And unless I see a person getting eaten, I will assume they just ripped her to pieces. Because that's what they did with everyone else, and they just leave the bodies lying around. They don't like take them back to home base. Oh, and that reminds me, there's this one girl that they kill and then they throw into the wood chipper with her clothes on. Way to ruin your next blood and bone soup, dumbasses. I hear this one is getting a sequel, and it would be tough for it to be worse than this one, so we'll just have to see, because I'm sure it'll be the talk of the town when it drops. And that's the last of them. I normally would ask if you guys want a part 2 of worst horror movies of the year, but these are all the worst ones that I've seen, so if I throw that idea out there, I would have to intentionally find shit movies and watch them, and if you want me to do that, your life is fucking forfeit! Sorry, got a little carried away there. Please watch my previous non-spoiler review for Thanksgiving, which was one of the good movies of the year, while I go calm myself down by chainsawing this bitch's mouth. Excuse me.